All right, I'm going to call this meeting to order. Today is July 19th, 2023, and this is the Finance Administration Committee and a special meeting of the Board of Directors, West Basin Municipal Water District. So with that, I will ask our staff if they'll please determine if they have quorum.
Thank you, President Houston. I'll read through the roll call. President Scott Houston.
Here.
Director Harold Williams. Director Gloria Gray.
Here.
Don Deere.
Here.
Director Desi Alvarez. President Houston, we have a quorum.
Okay, very good. So with that, do we have anyone from the public wishing to speak?
President Houston, we have not received any requests for public comment today. However, this meeting is being held both in person and virtually. So we will ask the attendees if there's anybody who wishes to make a public comment, can you please raise your virtual hand? President Houston, we have not seen any requests for public comment.
Very good. Thank you, Marquez. So move on to presentations. I don't believe we have any.
Staff has no presentations today, yes.
We'll go on to the action calendar, item 5A, which is approval of minutes.
Yes, approval of minutes for 3 board meetings. We'll turn it over to Board Secretary Desiree Quintero for this report.
Good afternoon, committee and board members. Staff is bringing forward approval of minutes. Minutes are used to provide a history of the action taken at board meetings, which is informative not only for members of the public, but for other stakeholders as well. The following minutes are being brought for the board's consideration. The April 24th regular board meeting minutes, which can be found beginning on packet page 6. May 3rd special board meeting minutes for budget workshop number 3. Which can be found beginning on packet page 31, as well as the May 22nd regular board meeting minutes, which can be found beginning on packet page 34. I will read the recommendation. Staff recommends that the board approve the April 24th, 2023 regular board minutes, May 3rd, 2023 special board minutes, and the May 22nd, 2023 regular board minutes.
Very good. Thank you, Desiree. First, any questions from our alternate Director Gray?
No, thank you.
Dear. Okay, and I have no questions, so I would recommend this moves forward to the board for approval. And Director Gray, do you concur?
I concur. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so we will move on now to item 5B as in boy.
President Houston, yes, 5B starts on page 40. That's the second item we have today, second action item we have today, which calls for the establishment of 2 ad hoc committees. I'm happy to report on this item. However, I will note that our General Manager, E.J. Caldwell, is also online to answer any questions the committee may have following my report. President Houston, staff has identified a need for the establishment of 2 new ad hoc committees. An ad hoc committee for matters regarding West Basin and WRD partnership, as well as another ad hoc committee for matters regarding West Basin facilities operations. I'll provide a little background on both. West Basin and regional partners are have been strategically planning to maximize recycled water in Los Angeles County for a while. WRD is also advancing its Wind for All program to expand the utilization of groundwater aquifers in the Los Angeles Basin region. So both agencies, West Basin and WRD, have a shared goal in maximizing West Coast Basin groundwater supplies through new groundwater recharge opportunities. So coordination between the 2 agencies will be critical in evaluating potential system expansions, West Basin system expansions, or retrofits of our treatment facilities, or the conversion of our distribution system to convey more advanced treated recycled water So that's a little background for one of the ad hocs. As for the ad hoc for West Basin Facilities Operations, as you know, West Basin currently contracts with Veolia to operate and maintain our recycled water treatment facilities, as well as the Hyperion Pump Station. This agreement with Veolia is scheduled to expire at the end of next year, December 31st, 2024. West Basin also contracts with Inframark to operate and maintain our recycled water distribution system. That agreement with Inframark, which we awarded a couple of years ago after a competitive bid process, is set to expire mid next year, June 30th, 2024. So careful evaluation of the current agreements, existing conditions, and next steps is crucial for securing appropriate O&M, operation and maintenance services for our recycled water system. Our admin code, of course, allows for the formation of ad hoc committees and for the board presidents to appoint committee members. We've done it before last few years. With that, I'll read the recommendation. Staff recommends that the board establish an ad hoc committee for matters regarding the West Basin Municipal Water District and Water Replenishment District partnership, as well as an ad hoc committee for matters regarding West Basin facilities operations, and that the board president appoint directors to the committees. That concludes my report, President.
Very good. Thank you, Board Kev. Any questions from Director Gray?
No, Chair, I think staff has explained the purpose of them. Well, I do have one question. Were these ad hoc committees recommended by staff, or where did the recommendation come from?
Recommendation, I think EJ, you'd be able to better speak on this. So I'll invite our general manager, EJ Caldwell, to address that question.
Thank you very much, Barkev. Yes, on the first item, in regard to the Water Replenishment District, this was actually previously discussed as part of the Brewer ad hoc. At the time, working with WRD, it was contemplated that the two agencies had a lot of opportunities to continue the partnership and really work together on future activities. Though it was never acted upon at that time, it has been recently discussed with WRD staff. After working with them on a couple of different issues, I agreed, and so I made this recommendation. I did have a chance to discuss this previously with our board president, who of course sat on the Brewer ad hoc. In regard to the operations side of the recommendation, under our previous general manager, Gregory Reed, he began initiating the process of evaluating the current agreements, both on the distribution system as well as the facility itself. And at that time, he initiated a couple of different actions in regard to utilizing 1 to 2 consultants to advise him as far as the pursuing an RFP, and began the discussions with our engineering operations staff. In the past month and a half, I've had a chance to meet with our executive manager, Barkev Masurian, as well as our operations manager, Uzi Daniel. And I've begun the process of kind of evaluating where we are, what would need to take place in order for us to move forward with an RFP, and what would need to take place for us to move this item to the full board for the board's ultimate decision as to whether to go out to RFP. And with that in mind, I've recommended that we move forward with an ad hoc because I think there's a great deal of work that needs to be done. And ultimately, we need a pathway to get this information in front of the full board. So as our full board meets only once every month, this would give us an opportunity to meet with some regularity and really get the ball rolling as far as evaluating where we are with the state of the facility and the opportunity to move out with an RFP.
That answer your question, Director Gray?
Yes, it is. Thank you.
Great. Any questions, Director Gear?
Oh.
And My understanding is, so we're looking to form two ad hocs. If we move forward to the board, assuming the board approves it, then we'll, the president, in this case, obviously me, but I'll appoint members to the ad hocs. And we'll go from there, correct, DJ?
You're on mute.
Very sorry for that. I should also add that the Water Replenishment District has actually notified us that they have selected their two board members. They're very excited about pursuing these discussions. You might recall that Director Rob Catherman previously served on the Brewer DeSalter ad hoc and joint discussions, and former and the late director Willard Murray actually served as well. So taking his place for this effort would be Director Joy Langford. So they've already identified the two directors that would be working on these matters.
So,
I'm
yeah,
assuming, Mr. President, you're going to be looking closely at the prior ad hoc committee
oh, yeah,
for membership on this committee.
yes, yes.
Makes sense.
Yes. Yeah, and I fully support this, this item. So with that, I would recommend approval go to the board and Director Gray, if you concur.
I concur.
Thank you. I do think this is a good option, a good idea, so we can continue a lot of conversations on these two subjects. Help us utilize our time wisely without having to always do it in the most formal setting, if you will. So with that, staff knows, please put that on the agenda.
And we'll put that on the action item agenda to have a discussion, of course.
Very good. Okay, so next is item 5C is in CAP, fiscal year 2023-24 community outreach event. And this one, yes, our community outreach events. So if you will go ahead on those two items.
Correct. 5C is an action item. It includes a recommendation for sponsoring two community outreach events. Our Deputy Board Secretary, Isa Vasquez, will present this item.
Thanks, Erica. Good afternoon, Chairman Houston, members of the committee and board. If I can turn your attention to packet page 42. Here we have the fiscal year 23-24 community outreach events. We have two before you today for your consideration. The first is El Segundo Chamber of Commerce's Main Street Car Show. Director Houston requests consideration for West Basin to sponsor this event. It's being held on Saturday, August 19th, 2023, in the amount of $1,000. This sponsorship would grant West Basin a speaking opportunity for a district representative, a district booth/table to distribute district information, and an advertisement promoting district awareness. I'd like to note that we did previously sponsor this event in fiscal year 21-22 in the same amount of $1,000. Additional details regarding the event and the sponsorship, including the benefits associated with it, can be found on packet page 44. The next item that we have before you is the Main Street Fair 2023 presented by the Kiwanis Club of El Segundo. Director Houston requests consideration for West Basin to sponsor this event being held on Saturday, September 30th, 2023 in the amount of $1,000. This sponsorship would grant West Basin a district booth/table to distribute district information. And it should be noted that we did previously sponsor this in fiscal year 21-22 in the amount of $300. Additional details for this item can actually be found on packet page 48. Turning to page 43 for the fiscal impact. Funds for these sponsorships are included in the fiscal year 23-24 community outreach budget in the amount of $75,000. Approval of these sponsorships at the proposed amounts would leave a remaining budget of $65,500. With that, I'd like to read the recommendation. Staff recommends that the board consider approving sponsorship of one, the El Segundo Chamber of Commerce's Main Street Car Show event scheduled to be held on Saturday, August 19th, 2023 in the amount of $1,000 as requested by Director Houston. Number two, the Main Street Fair 2023 presented by the Kiwanis Club of El Segundo event scheduled to be held on Saturday, September 30th, 2023 in the amount of $1,000 as requested by Director Houston. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, very good. Just one note I see on the Kiwanis Club event. They didn't mark the box, but they do say they want a logo, so somehow they include, I guess, an advertisement or mention.
So with that, I think the reason that they didn't mark it is in our admin code, it does specify that just a logo would not constitute as an advertisement. It has to have some sort of conservation messaging. They're trying to make sure that those that request sponsorship are aware of that. And that's why they didn't mark it and just marked it.
Okay, great. Let's see. So with that, first, our alternate on this committee, Director Gray, any questions?
No, thank you. No, thank you.
Any other questions, Director Chair? I have no questions. We've supported both these events before, and they both, in this case, have booths, which I think is the most valuable thing we can do in communities. So I would recommend it goes forward to the board. And if Director Gray, do you concur?
I concur.
Excellent. All right, thank you very much. So now we're going to go to 5D as in dog, which is fiscal year 2023-24 district sponsorship requests. And it looks like we have two that have come in to the district, not community outreach.
Correct. And for this report, also Haza Vasquez will present the staff.
I can now have you turn your attention to packet page 57, where we have two items before you for district sponsorships. The first that we have here is for the Urban Water Institute's 30th Annual Water Conference. We did receive a request to sponsor this conference that's being held in San Diego, I believe. Yes, sorry, San Diego, from August 23rd through the 25th. At this time, we are not recommending an amount for sponsorship. However, I did want to note that we previously sponsored this in in fiscal year 22-23 in the amount of $3,000. They did provide a few different options. If you see just below that, there are a few listed. These are their premium sponsorship opportunities at $10,000, $5,000, $4,000, $3,000, and $2,000 levels. They have additional opportunities, and these would be to sponsor individual events. They have the welcome reception sponsor, continental breakfast sponsor, buffet breakfast sponsor, and their audio visual sponsor. So there's a few different opportunities there. For additional details on this sponsorship and any associated benefits, you can turn to packet page 59, where all of the details are included. The next one that we have before you is the 8th Annual California Water Data Summit. For this sponsorship, we did not receive a specific dollar amount, I believe, but we did want to have the board consider it. This summit will be held in Palo Alto from September 7th and September 8th. Sorry about that. We, again, are not recommending a specific sponsorship amount, but we did previously sponsor this in fiscal year 22-23 in the amount of $1,000. They do have a few different options for sponsorship at $10,000, $5,000, $2,500, and $1,000 levels. And those the benefits associated can be found on attachment B, which is packet page. So down to page 58. For the fiscal impact, funds for the proposed sponsorships are included in the fiscal year 23-24 sponsorship budget in the amount of $35,000. There is currently a remaining balance of $52,000 that if you choose to sponsor these two events will be deducted from. So with that, I'd be happy to read the recommendation. Staff recommends that the board consider sponsoring the Urban Water Institute 30th Annual Water Conference to be held from Wednesday, August 23rd, 2023 through Friday, August 25th, 2023. And and number two, the 8th Annual California Water Data Summit to be held on Thursday, September 7th, 2023 and Friday, September 8th. You have to answer your question.
Thank you, Haza. Quick question on Urban Water Institute. Is anyone attending already that we're aware of? I know I'm not planning to, but is anybody?
So for Urban Water, we do have our general manager, is our executive manager of engineering and operations. For the California Water Data Summit, we do not have anyone attending at this time.
Okay, very good. With that, I know staff's not making a recommendation of the amounts, but on the Urban Water Institute, if we do a silver for $3,000, it comes with one conference registration. So if we have at least one person, if not more, who's already attending, I think that makes a lot of sense. So from my perspective, I would recommend we sponsor silver level for Urban Water Institute at $3,000. And then for the California the Water Data Summit, I would recommend the silver at $2,500. And from my thinking there is apparently you get some tabletop exhibit space, among other things. So I think that that's a reasonable opportunity for West Basin. So my recommendation, Director Gray, would be $3,000 silver level for Urban Water Institute and a $2,500 silver level for the California Water Data Summit. I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Now, is there anyone attending the second conference? I didn't really hear that.
We don't have anyone at this time.
And so, is this a conference that we've sponsored in the past?
Yes, it is. We most recently sponsored it in fiscal year 22-23 in the amount of $1,000.
And do you know if anyone attended that conference back in 22?
I don't have that information before me, but I can look into it. I can have an answer for you.
Yeah. And what's the lowest sponsorship on that one?
The lowest sponsorship is $1,000.
Okay, so, Mr. Chair, why recommend the 2,500? What was your rationale for that?
Oh, sure. You know, when I look at it, $2,500, it does include an opportunity for some exhibit space. So whether anybody goes up there or not, it would give us a chance to have some of our materials about West Basin there. Most of the other thing, I mean, they throw in a couple of other publicity parts for the $2,500. So I just think that it would probably be good to go up that additional amount. I haven't determined if I'm going to go up to the event yet or not, but it's still a ways out, September. I'm hoping some staff or directors will go. I really, truly am. So I think, quite frankly, Director Gray, it's only $1,500 difference. You know, but I think that the extra value is having an opportunity to display some of our materials. I think that would be really good.
Yeah.
President
What is the
Houston, if I may.
1,000?
What was that?
What was the $1,000 sponsorship include?
Sure. So $1,000 would be your logos on their website. It's displayed on the screen and marketing materials during the event, and it's in the event emails. It's also on their social media promotion. You can provide some swag at the check-in table, like stickers, and they'll have a link to your website on their digital agenda. If you go to 2,500, it has all of those things plus the tabletop exhibit space or roll-up banner space. So again, since these are folks from all over the state of California, I think that extra value, you know, I think that's agreeable for me. That's the only major difference, Director Gray. Or Kev, you wanted to say something?
I was just going to say that our general manager also has his virtual hand up
Oh, I'm sorry, I missed that.
as well.
EJ Caldwell has his hand up. Yeah, sorry, EJ. Go ahead.
President Houston, I apologize because chiming in virtually is not always the easiest, but I did want to mention that in the past, our previous general manager has participated, as well as our water policy and resources development staff. The idea behind the data collaborative began, I think, 2 droughts ago, when the State Water Resources Control Board really realized that ultimately the state did not have enough data to really track water use and water demand throughout the state of California, which once you have that data, it allows you to implement policies and legislation that allows for the policymakers to ultimately decrease the use of water. And I wanted to also point out that this was a request that we received from June Lopez, the general manager down in Orange County, when she last attended our board meeting. And we did receive the request from her staff, former Assembly member Jose Solorio. Again, they've been very active as far as trying to get this up and running, because they see that there is great value as far as sharing the data, not only throughout California, but specific regions, because as we know, every region, our water use and our water demand is very different. So I want to give that a little bit of background. It's very likely that regardless of what the committee chooses, that they would also attend our board meeting on Monday and possibly answer any questions that the committee or board might have. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Any further discussion, Director Gray?
Yeah, I would kind of like to hear from the other board members. So I'm really, well, I guess the question is, is staff prepared to have an informational table there if in fact we go with the 2,500? If they can't answer that question now, and the other one I had about if someone went last time, then perhaps we could just move it along and let the full board have some input to it.
Okay, let's see, if we did the $2,500 level, would staff be able to have materials for a booth up there?
We can.
Yes, we would.
Again, I'm going to refer to EJ.
Yes, we would definitely have somebody from the Water Policy and Resources Development team join.
Okay, Director Gray, I just,
Yeah. Mr. Chair, Director, do you have any input? If not, I mean, I'm okay
I'm
with
fine.
your recommendation. I just had some questions, but I'm okay with what you recommended.
Thank
Especially
you.
based on what staff had said. I just want to make
Yeah.
sure that we have a presence there and we can, because you weren't sure if you were going. I know I can't go, and I didn't know if the others were, so I just want to make sure we had some presence there.
Oh, yeah, let me, Director Deere, he has no questions or comments. Thank you, Director Gray.
Okay.
Yeah, I just, and thank you for your support, because I think, it's a very small difference in the amounts. I don't know who's going to go up. I'm sure one or two of our staff will hopefully go, and maybe a board member or two. I think the California Data Collaborative is excellent. They do a great job. I'd like to continue supporting them. And so assuming this gets passed by the full board, I know we'll get the materials and they need as an extra piece of this. What was I gonna say, Director Gray? You made me think of something. Now I'm forgetting on the fly. But I want to say thanks for your comments, because I would love to just have a number on there so it hopefully can just move through the board. So with that, staff, you heard the recommendation of 2 amounts, and we'll put that forward to the full board for approval.
Silver sponsorship for each one of them.
Correct.
Moving forward.
Correct. All right, great. All right, thank you, and thank you, Director Gray. All right, we are in the final portion of this, which is our information calendar, item 6A.
Item 6A is our monthly finance reporting update, financial report update. And for this item, we have accountant, what's based on accountant Sandra Ruiz.
Thank you,
for this
Dr.
update.
Kim. Good afternoon, members of the board. I will be presenting agenda item 6A, the monthly financial report. As required by West Basin Administrative Code, staff is required to submit various reports to the board to keep them appraised of the financial condition and future needs of the district. If I can ask you to please turn to packet page 67, item 6AA. This is the demands list for the period ending June 30th, 2023. The report concludes on packet page 71, where you will see the total demands for the month ending is $16.3 million. I will note that the biggest item that we paid out was the Met bill, and that equals approximately $10.1 million. The second items that were high on the list of expenses was construction costs for the JMM phase project, and that totaled approximately $1.9 million. At this point, those were the only two items of note, but I will pass it over to Mary Ann to further go over the demands list.
Good afternoon, Chairman Houston, members of the committee and board. I just wanted to add a couple of items or some words about this particular demand list. You might have noticed on page 7, there were a couple of references to void, page 71. I say 7, I'm sorry, 71. There were a couple of references to void checks. We did have, back in June, we discovered that there were a number of checks that were fraudulently cashed by a third party. At the time, we notified our bank immediately. We stopped payments on any of the outstanding checks at that time. Notified all of our vendors what was going on. We did also talk to our local sheriff and reported the incident. And we also filed a report with the U.S. Postal Service, and that came after we looked at security camera footage that showed that those checks, in fact, did get delivered to the postman. We're working to recover those funds. To date, it's about $58,000. The process is quite lengthy. We need to get an affidavit from each of the vendors that they did not receive those funds. It has to be a wet signature, it has to be notarized. And to date, we've received 5 of the 7 have returned it to us, so we're making good progress. We've notified the other 2 vendors that we're still, anticipating their return of that information. We've talked to the bank, we've turned in those affidavits we received and been told that it's going to be a lengthy process, probably 8 to 12 weeks before we find out what the outcome is. We did look at the insurance that we do have here at the district. There is fraud insurance available if we need to use that. There is a $2,500 deductible. It's my hope that we recover all the funds and won't have to use the insurance itself. But with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions regarding the incident.
Okay, Director Gray, any questions? You heard the moment. Director Gear, any questions? No. Great, thank you, Mary Ann. And I see the number of voided checks, and of course the board's been informed as to what was happening, and quite frankly, I just reading something recently, but just normal consumers that are having the same thing happen when they drop things at post boxes and their own personal checks, manipulating them and cashing them. So it's a problem all around the region, right?
Unfortunately, yes. And when I spoke to the bank, they said this is not uncommon. It's the first for us, which was, was happy to see after Margaret's retirement. But we are dealing with it, and hopefully, as I said, we recover all those funds.
Yeah, so word to the wise, what I saw was try to pay your bills as much as possible online for folks just in everyday life, because unfortunately this is happening to people quite frequently now, which is just.
If I can add, we are looking at other ways to pay our vendors other than through a check. In fact, we had discussions with our bank prior to this occurring, and there are several options that we're looking at. And so you'll be hearing more about that, hopefully in the next couple of months.
Yeah. I mean, so since we're all on this topic and we can talk about it for a second or not, but even myself personally, I don't leave it at the mailbox for the mailman. I take it to a drop box or post office that's going to go out that day, that night, just because I, am so concerned now, unfortunately. And I've even seen, where I live, El Segundo, Manhattan Beach, and other people are literally, I see the reports all the time on Facebook and next door, but people are fishing in those mailboxes, even in the higher end neighborhoods. So it's happening. And so anyway, here we were, unfortunate victim of this. Thank you, staff, for jumping right on it. Thank you, EJ, by the way. He, got us in the loop immediately. So just one more thing to deal with in our modern age. Now I do have a couple of really fast questions, I think here. One was Vaughn's Industrial Repair, a pump repair, so it's about $56,000. It's little, it's on our packet, page 67. Just, maybe this was discussed at, but what exactly was that for?
We have on-call pump repair contractor. We have one for pumps and we have one for motors. And every so often when a pump goes down or as a preventative maintenance, we take a pump offline to do some repairs. We've asked or issued task orders on that on-call contract for Vaughn's to do a few things this last month.
Okay. So was this, I'm just curious, was it like this was more of a planned repair, or it wasn't something where the pump went down and we had to?
There was one where the pump went down and there were others that were planned ones.
Okay. So maybe this is for more than one. Yeah.
Yes. I'm looking at the information here before you. This was barrier transfer pump 16. We had to repair it. Also, the motor was overhauled a few months ago. There was, quite a bit of work that needs to be done. So that's one of them to the tune of 41,000. And then the other one was another barrier product water pump number 3 that underperforming. It didn't necessarily fail, but it was underperforming and we aimed to do some modifications.
And then my other question was on page 69 of our packet, 89824 skill path seminars. We had employee training for about $6,600. Just if you all can tell us what exactly that.
I'll check and give you some, a little bit more information on that.
And I missed it again.
89824, page 69. Skill path seminars for employee training.
We can confirm, but we did conduct a leadership training for the managers at
But I think
West
too, but I want
West Basin
check.
last month for West Basin managers and supervisors.
That was exactly
Is that it?
coaching, team building, yes.
Yep.
For the managers and supervisors.
Leadership training. Perfect. Okay, but just when I see things that are a little different or not, always there, just curious what they are. I'll let us know. Okay, with that, any other questions from Director Gier?
No, thank you.
And Director Gray, any questions? Yeah, move along. All right, with that, continue.
If I can ask you to turn to packet page 72, we will go over item 6AB, which is the West Basin Cash and Investment Report as of June 30th, 2023. At the bottom, you will see the total market value for the month was 72.7 million. To the right of that is our pie graph listing all the investments for the month, and you will see the top two are the investment pool, which makes up 31%, and the U.S. Treasury, which makes up 22.6%. The next page, packet page 73, is the credit quality distribution. This is a bar graph comparing credit quality month to month. You will see that 41% of the investments are rated AAA, so that's very good. And then the next bar graph on packet page 74 is the maturity distribution. Portfolio continues to be highly invested in very liquid investments. Next page, packet page 75, is the transaction ledger for the month. You will see we had an acquisition purchase of an agency investment, and then we had several distributions, several maturities happen in the month of June as well. The next pages are the investment listings. This report lists all descriptions of the investments, maturity dates, and par values of all the investments that we have. So that begins on packet page 76 and concludes on packet page 83. On packet page 84, we have the glossary section of our report listing definitions for the various terms that are used. And that concludes on packet page 86. And with that, I'll pause to see if there's any questions about the investment report.
Questions, Director Deere?
Yeah. May I add just a comment real quick? I'm sorry. I just want to say that we do have upcoming presentation next month. We've invited Malaga Bank as part of our small and community bank program, and they have confirmed that they will be here in August. And we are working with the other banks to continue our relationship and maybe expand that relationship. So we'll have more information next month.
Very good. Thank you, Mary Ann. And let's see, Director Gray, do you have any questions? I'm just looking at the calendar real quick. And our next one is.
No, thank you. No, thank you.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Thank you, Director Gray. Our next meeting is August 16th, but I'm going to be traveling, so I am going to have to change the meeting. So I'll work offline with you all. But since we're talking about it now, we'll do a heads up on that because, you know, we have to adjust the schedule on this meeting. But, you know, hopefully it'll still work for Malaga Bank. But if not, we can push it to September. But I was going to actually ask you about that, Mary Ann, who might be coming soon. And of course, I ran into them recently at a couple of events. And so I'm anxious to have them come and talk to us and tell us a little bit more what they're doing lately. Because they are, as you know, very, very active in our South Bay communities. And so I'm looking forward to hearing some of that. Great. Okay, so I have no other questions thus far. And if you'd like to continue on.
Okay, great. Thank you. The next item is item 6AC, which is the monthly water sales. And again, this is for the period ending June 30th, 2023. Begins on packet page 88. And you can see the first graph is the imported retail. So for the month of June, there was 7,270 acre feet sold. So overall, for the whole entire year, we sold 88,530 acre feet. And you can see it's a substantial drop from last year, which about 15,000 acre feet. We thought back to the year, and some of the factors we think might have affected the lower usage was, first and foremost, the rainfall for the year. For the year, there was a 28.4 inches worth of rainfall, which compared to last year was 12.4. So it's almost like doubled it. And then the average highs was a lot cooler this month. Another factor is MWD had in September, if you recall, a shutdown for 15 days. So that contributed to the lower usage. And then we believe that also the messaging of conservation continued for the whole entire year. That with the rainfall, it just the usage was really down. So the second graph is the imported barrier, and you can see for June we had 456 acre feet. This brought for the entire year 6,465. Just a quick breakdown between West Coast and the Dominguez Gap. So for the year, the Dominguez Gap used 1,650 acre feet, and the West Coast barrier used 4,800. Ask you to turn to packet page 89, and we will begin with the recycled water sales. For the month of June, we had 2,579 acre feet, which falls in line with what last year was higher than last year, but not quite in budget. And then if you look at the table graph below for the month, you can see for refineries, we were in budget and close to last year, but barrier was below budget. A couple of things with barrier, again, when we're thinking back to the fiscal year, there were a number of quality quality issues with Hyperion, still working out their problems. And there were a couple of shutdowns that the county had requested for leak repair and other stuff. So that also contributed to the lower usage. For disinfectant type Title 22 water, we feel like it was the conservation messaging, again, with the rainfall and customers not turning on recycled water for the parks or the mediums, and the public perception, why do we have to conserve when, the cities may not? So we had some customers who were not turning back on the recycled water and things like that, but operations continues to work with them and discuss how that could be. And with that, I'll pause. Any questions?
Any questions, Director Jim? No. Questions, Director Gregg?
No, thank you.
Thank you. I have a question on just the overall water sales for the year. Because obviously this is the end, right? This is it. We're closed out now, right?
Yes.
These are the final numbers. Now, of course, we budgeted for 103,200 acre feet last year. And we approved our budget last month, but please remind me, what is our budget this year? We're budgeting by less water, right?
Yes, the budget for the retail is 95,000.
Okay. Couldn't remember off the top of my head, but obviously, we went over this quite a lot this past cycle. And so when we see that we had budgeted for 137,000, but we obviously didn't hear that. And of course, the weather happened and other things happened that played into it. But all that being said, I think hopefully this new budgeted number, 95,000, will track better with what we end up achieving next year. Just so it optically too, it looks like, hey, we're not expecting to sell as much water, which is kind of where we're at anyways on the import side, but also allows us to not anticipate we're going to have those sales, right, Marianne, if you will?
Yeah, going back to the workshops, I think EJ had, showed us a graph, and we saw that during times of drought, water usage drops. But then after the drought, you do typically see some sort of a bounce back with all the messaging and all the rebates for replacing your turf and things like that. Those are, if you will, hard changes, and so you won't get that necessarily that back. But I think we do anticipate to having some of a bounce back in the next coming year. Again, if the weather, works with us. If we have another year like we did this one, well, I don't know, but based on history and what we think, we feel that 95,000 was a reasonable amount of budget.
Right.
So Houston, in the last 10 years, we have seen bounce back twice, the mid 2010s and then also the late 2010s. We saw, 2 or 3 years of low and then bounce back. So we do expect, and we're eager to see what this next year holds. Because 88,000 is, there was an estimate that Matt provided, Matt B provided to us. It's 14% lower than last year. And if you take last year's demand of 88 and compare it to 20 years ago, that's 50,000, approximately 50,000 acre feet of demand reduction over the 20 years, approximately 20.
I was here 20 years ago, and I can tell you we were selling like 140,000 acre feet. Yeah, so that's absolutely true.
Very good. Thank you. Because I think all that being said, I think it's good because, as we discussed all this, we're being really the next cycle very conservative on our water sales estimates and projections. And let's see how that does go. It also helps us to, live a bit better within our means for planning. And then, then we can come out of this next year or two and see where we're at. Right. So anyway, I'm happy at this point because what I always see is, we have the target number, but we're never hitting the target because a lot of things happen. We're planning based on higher sales that just don't materialize. And so, anyway, so for what it's worth, I'm proud of, staff and the board to look at this differently this year. And let's just see what, this fiscal year brings. Okay. Let's see. Any other questions from my colleagues? I don't think so. All right, we have a few more pages, I think,
Yes.
right?
Yes, thank you. So the last item, or the last two items, we'll start with item number 6AD, and that's the Director's Travel and Conference through June 2023, and that's on packet page 90. And then the final item, 6AE, is the Executive Management and Staff Travel Expense Report. With that is the reports.
Thank you. Good deal. And Director Gray, questions? Okay, I don't hear her. So with that, we'll move along. Thank you very much, ladies. And we have item 7, closed session. We have no closed session.
No closed session.
Director comments and future agenda items. I'll start with Director Deere.
Glad that our staff is keeping track of our money and our water both. I'm just curious as to how we end up having those bad checks.
Well, they were cashed by a third party. So what that means is that the check was not altered whatsoever and it was presented to the bank. So the bank that cashed the actual check should have questioned the third party being not who the check was written to.
Who was the third party and how they get a hold of our checks?
Well, we're suspecting they were stolen. Again, we looked at our video, nothing happened here in the district, so we're suspecting it was after the checks were picked up from our location.
Somewhere in the mail service.
And just to further add to what you had mentioned earlier, we have been the last 2 check runs, we've been taking those checks to the actual post office, and we may continue that for a time just to see, if that helps. If that's the case, we'll
I don't mail my checks at home anymore. I used to do it right, stick it on my mailbox and guy came by and stole them. I washed them and changed it from a $50 or so phone bill to a $2,500 check to him. But my signature that I use on my check is not the same as my signature that's imprinted on the check intentionally. He just signed my check with the name that was written on the check, and the bank caught it. It wasn't even my bank, it was the next neighbor bank. And they knew I didn't sign my name the way it was signed. They called me up and asked me about it. So I didn't get cash. But it got stolen. I don't mail them anymore. Okay.
Anything else?
No.
Director Gray, are you still there?
I'm still here. Thank you. I'm still here.
Any final comments or future agenda items?
No, thank you. Just thank you to staff this morning, everyone.
Thank you, Director Gray, and thank you for being here, Director Williams' absence. And let's see, I want to say thank you to staff, of course. Thank you for some great reports and information. And also, I was there earlier this morning at the Pure Water Southern California presentation of an $80 million check from the State Water Resources Control Board. And Marquette was there and Matt was there. And there were a lot of people there. I was quite impressed by how many folks were there on a Wednesday morning. But so that was a great, not just the event, but I mean the fact that we are moving so much closer to the whole place facility Carson with Metropolitan. So I just wanted to mention that. And I don't have anything else at this moment, except that, yeah, we'll have to look at some calendar items. I'll work with our staff on that to see if we can reschedule to next month's meeting that'll accommodate. And I don't think I have anything else. So our next scheduled meeting is supposed to be August 16th, 2023, but that will likely change. And with that, we're adjourned.